Thank you very much.
Dear God, our Heavenly Father, let us pray that this council will make wise and godly decisions which are always in the best interest of this community and your people. Let us pray that your will protect our police and first responders and the people of Bel Air Beach. Let us pray that you will protect and restore man's portion of your most beautiful masterpiece of this island and protect us from any future storms from this house. And let us pray that all your people find peace with one another, set aside your differences, and promote and glorify your name. In Jesus' name, your Son, I pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Now please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Kathy, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Frank Bankert.
Present.
Councilmember Kimberly Shaw Elliott.
Present.
Councilmember Todd Harper.
Present.
Councilmember Jody Shirley. Councilmember Anders Wellings.
Present.
Councilmember Lloyd Roberts.
Here.
Mayor Dave Gaddis.
Here.
City Manager Kyle Riefler.
Here.
City Attorney Tom Trask.
Here. Thank you, Kathy. Our first item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Motion is made by Frank Banker. Do I have a second? Second. Second by Todd Harper. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, the agenda is approved. Now we're up to citizen comments. If any citizen would like to address the council about a topic not already on tonight's agenda, please raise your hand and wait to be called on. Each speaker will be recognized once and limited to a 3-minute presentation. Please direct all questions and comments to the council. Would anyone like to speak? Yes, sir. Please come up, give us your name and address.
Hi, my name is Fritz Will, 905 Harbor Drive. You probably know me by now. A couple of weeks ago, I attended your workshop, and I found out that you are going to discuss, or you're going to vote on the bid for 9th Street pump. I went home and I just couldn't believe it. What's the bid going to do? It's not going to advance the subject at all. It is not complicated.
Mr. Will, I'm going to have to ask you to withhold your comment until we get to that subject, because we are voting on it tonight, and that's where this order needs to go. Okay? If you don't mind, please just withhold your comments until we actually get to it, because you'll get another opportunity to speak, and we'll move forward.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, thank you very much. Would anyone else like to speak on any topic not already on the agenda? All right, citizen comments are now closed. We have a presentation from the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office, monthly law enforcement report.
Good evening, Council. I'm Sergeant Bolt with the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office, and tonight I'm going to present the May of 2025 monthly analysis report. And it's a good report. There's only one incident of larceny that occurred, and that incident is related to a jackhammer theft that occurred the month prior. So they followed up on this case, added an additional charge in that case. It's probably going to be a dealing in stolen property or a false verification ownership charge. So that's related to that, that prior month. All right. And there's 12 people that are arrested in the city of Bel Air Beach during the month of May. And when I look at these arrests that are on this list here, a lot of them are traffic-related arrests. And what that shows is that our deputies are going out there and trying to catch bad guys, not necessarily just responding to the box or responding to calls for service. They're here trying to catch and make the community safer by doing so. And for example, I noticed that there's 12 people that are arrested, but there's 20 total charges. The possession of controlled substance charge, that person was arrested on a traffic stop, but they were also arrested for DWSR at the same time. So that's why there's a discrepancy there with the total number of people that are arrested and then the charges be 20. All right, when it comes to deputy activity, there are 598 events that occurred in the city of Bel Air Beach, and 723 units responded. So some units went to had a backup going to the call with them or assisting them. And I did notice that there's an increase in direct patrols this month for May. And that we've been working pretty hard and diligent on a issue with traffic on Gulf Boulevard and 22nd Avenue. There's a complaint about speeding that occurred there that we've been spending hours on. We haven't seen anything really come to fruition as any excessive speed going on. But the deputy's been working out there and working on that pretty hard, trying to find if that's going to be corroborated or not. But the vast majority of our activities is going to be the traffic stops, our direct patrols, and house checks. And then on our last page, we had one crash that occurred in the city, a minor crash. Actually, it wasn't a crash at all. I'll have to do some more research on this, but I believe it's a report of a crash. When the deputies finally got out there, there wasn't a crash at all. So it's interesting how this kind of popped up on the report from the data that I had. It appeared to be one of those, your iPhone alerts you of a crash that occurred, and dispatch deputies are called 911 on their behalf, and when deputies got out there, there's nothing. So it's one of those fall prevention things that iPhone has or the smartphones has that alerts the 911 of the crash. And then finally, there's 197 citations and warnings issued in the city for the month of May. So just another testament that the deputies are going out there and doing traffic enforcement, not just responding to the boxes or receiving calls for service.
Any questions or comments?
Just a brief comment. These are regular items that appear on the report, but I'm just curious for some examples. We have 11 incidents of transport prisoner, and just what are some examples of assist a citizen?
So the transport prisoner, I talked about this, I think, about 2 months ago, and a lot of times those are generated when we have maybe a homeless person that needs to go to a shelter. But in addition to that, those are also folks that were arrested. Maybe they were arrested for the DWSR. They come back here to this, we bring them back here to City Hall. Then we have a transport van or a transport call generated, so then they can take it to the jail. So that frees up our deputies to stay in the city and prevents them from having to spend time going and booking the person in the jail.
Thank you.
Assist citizens, those could be anything from, hey, there's a cat in a tree, or something relatively minor that doesn't require a police report to be made.
Very good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Do we have a holding cell in this building? Wow, no.
No.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you, Sergeant.
Thank you.
All right, next up is Deputy Trump. Is he here tonight?
No, we have not.
Okay, well, giving the code enforcement report is Deputy Weaver.
Thank you, Mayor. So yes, Officer Trump, he will be out this week and returning next week. He's on a short vacation. But he did code enforcement all the way up until Thursday last week. And you'll see on our graph, which is page 37 and 99 of the electronic document right at the end of the code report, it shows kind of what he's been doing this past month. We're still spending a lot of time on the ground cover. More so, I would say we're getting in the growing season, so he's had to constantly sweep through the city and catch some lots that are getting over the 7 inches. And while he's gone this week, I have Aaron in Community Services who's also will be checking on the grass length because it's growing so fast. But yeah, one thing I want to say is this upcoming month is we're planning on citing the dead shrubs that we're seeing throughout the city. We've been focusing on the grass, but now the field's time that some of the landscape and some of the shrubs that are clearly dead get removed and just to get it out of sight. So that's kind of where we're at. We're going to send out a little notification to our email blast just to give the residents a heads up of what we're doing, and we'll see more of that coming next month's code enforcement. That really is all I have. We would continue to use our new program to export the report. One little hiccup is if we have the back date an entry, we can put the date the note was entered, but when I run the report, it puts it in the entry order regardless of what the back date is. So it might be something that gets fixed in the future, but just wanted to mention that.
Based on the extent of this report, I'd say he earned that vacation. He's been busy, very busy, and this is good. This is what we were expecting. So great job. And whenever we see him, we're going to tell him thank you very much for doing such a great job in our city. Any questions for the city manager concerning this report?
So if I did some homework and have some other potential violations to be considered, how do I submit them?
You just email me.
Just email, sure, okay.
Or call and,
Okay.
Just one question, and I'm glad one council member just showed up because she might be able to help with this.
Sorry.
No,
off the call.
I'm getting complaints, and you went right out, and Deputy Trump went right out on one of the pool. A lot of these people have abandoned their houses, or they're not in their houses. They've actually, some of them cleaned their pools out, I'm not saying everyone has, but they had to stop running. So now it's a green mosquito, rat, snake. Some of these neighbors don't like the snakes coming into their yards. So like, what do we really do here?
so we send a violation letter immediately for pools. I typically do 5 days, but I learned that we can actually go below 5 days. I used to think that was the minimum. So I actually did one recently for 3 pool, just because it's pretty nasty, and the mosquitoes are the worst part about
Yeah,
it.
and now they're getting rats and everything else.
Right.
Now with the overflow, no one's here to pump them out. It's really bad.
And then we did 6 pool cases this past month, so we're still getting them.
Okay. I appreciate it.
At what point does this become a biohazard? I mean, you can cite them all you want.
Thank you.
Well, at what point can something be done about it?
That's it.
Right now, this year, we have more mosquitoes than I've ever seen.
Yeah.
In the entire time I've lived in Bel Air Beach, and it's got to be because of pools.
I can't say that for certain, but if you know the pool that is dirty, we'll get on and get it cleaned up. When we send a violation letter, and it usually doesn't even go to a hearing. They're coming, either getting a pump back, operating, pumping it out, or treating with chemicals. Okay.
So most people are addressing them
Yeah.
when they give the violation.
Any other questions for City Manager Reaper on the code enforcement report? No. All right. Next up is a presentation from the Pinellas Suncoast Fire and Rescue District. Welcome, Chief Grimes. You have the floor.
Thank you. Chief Grimes from Pinellas Suncoast Fire Rescue. For the month of June, we had 15 medical calls. 2 of them I've tried to sort out as serious. So one was a trauma alert, which means the person has to go to a trauma center, which is the closest one it's normally getting from. Sometimes we actually fly those patients out. And then one full cardiac arrest, and that's when their heart stops. So 15 total, 2 in the serious category. We had 2 fire alarms. And our response time on average was 7 minutes to the scene. That's not getting to the patient, that's just to the scene, depending on how far the patient is from where we park. But 7 minutes to get to where we're going. So that's something we're working on. With our northern property we bought at the Church of the Isles. Because our average goal is 4 minutes and 30 seconds, but we really like to do it less than that. There's some great videos on fires that you light up a fire in a garbage can, and in 7 minutes, the smoke's on fire and burning. So if you can get there before that, you can really stop the damage. The same, obviously, with a heart attack. You can get there within the first 4 minutes, you're in good shape. So that's what we're shooting for. And I also pulled some numbers on the 4th. I just thought it would be interesting. We had 2 medical calls and 1 fire alarm, so we didn't have a lot of 4th of July activity. That, in contrast to last year, was 6 calls, which was 2 motor vehicle collisions, 2 medical and 2 fire. But over the last 5 years, the highest year was we had 13 calls. That was when weather was good and there's a lot of people out and doing a bunch of things. So we had 9 medical calls and 4 fire calls over the 4th of July weekend on a busy 4th of July weekend. Our work group is highly motivated, and we just actually onboarded this month 2 new hires. So we put them through they're already obviously trained, but we put them through our own orientation program. So 3 weeks of training. They're in a week of medical this week with the county, and then they'll be on shift
comments for Chief Grimes? No?
Very nice, thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for being here. All right, now we're going back to city attorney. Well, we're going to the city attorney. Tom, how you doing?
Doing great, thank you.
Okay, do you have a report for us?
I wanted to follow up on our discussion that we had at the June 23rd meeting relative to artificial turf. I want to bring your attention that there has been a change in the law with regard to artificial turf. The state statutes refer to it as synthetic turf. But House Bill 683 was adopted and it took effect as of July 1st of this year. It specifically provides some direction to municipalities relative to the enforcement of regulations related to synthetic turf. The new statute is 125.572, and it provides that the Department of Environmental Protection is obligated to adopt minimum standards for installation of synthetic turf. Once that is done, it's believed the city is going to be prohibited from adopting or enforcing any ordinance that enforces a regulation that does not comply with the standards that have been set forth by the Department of Environmental Protection. So we'll be having to keep a close watch on the Department of Environmental Protection as to when they adopt those minimum standards. I'm not sure whether that'll be done in the next 30 days or so, but we'll keep an eye on that. But I wanted to bring it to your attention because of the discussion that took place at the last meeting. So I'll keep you up to speed. When we get those standards in place, we'll have to take a look at our code, maybe revise our code, but we will not be enforcing the code if it is in any way not in compliance with the Department of Environmental Protection standards. So,
I'm assuming you will provide us guidance for altering our ordinances to reflect changes.
absolutely. And I did take a look at the ordinance after the meeting. There are a couple of places in your code that talk about turf, and I became familiarized myself with that statute so that as we go forward, I'll be able to jump right on that as soon as we get the standards set. Those sections are 94-69 in your code, also 94-6. So,
And is there somewhere we can follow along where the standard is being worked on?
So at this point, I'm not really sure where that's going to be located. I will, since it just became law, I will follow up with that, but more than likely it's going to be a regulation through the Department of Environmental Protection, and so maybe a website associated with that department.
All right, and just so everyone knows, I think the big question was about right-of-way and the setback, is that correct?
It was the front setback, including the right-of-way. From what I understand is when it was the Planning and Zoning Board that met and reviewed the code in 2021, but when it was discussed about artificial turf, that it was intended that there was, that it was supposed to be allowed. Maybe the language got misconstrued when they codified it, but the idea was they were supposed to allow it in the front setback on the lot, but the right-of-way would never be something that would be permitted. But if someone was to put it in the right-of-way, I'm concerned that we should get some kind of a sign-off saying that if we need to do work, that we do not incur the cost of having to replace it.
I have a question. When we do work in the right of way and it's someone's driveway, what do we do? Do we replace it?
We put it back, but that's a lot different than artificial turf. You got the subsurface and the exact install, certified installer and all that,
Well, I was just going to say, if we're not going to do it for one surface, we shouldn't do it for any surfaces that ever.
That's what most places do.
Yeah. I mean, if we're going to say, oh, we're going to cut up your grass and we'll replace what's on, but we're not going to, if it's artificial turf, then we need to have a standard. Either we do it or we don't do it,
That's what the county does.
Correct. If a water main breaks, that's on you.
Right.
All right?
And then what do we do for people that
can allow them to move forward in compliance with the city code, but as soon as the standards come down and they are not in compliance with the standards provided by the environmental protection, those now will basically be legal non-conforming lawns, yards, whatever you want to call it, right away. It doesn't mean it won't have to come out. It just means that it was legal when it was put in, if it follows the current code. But, moving forward, we need to comply with the standards set by the Department of Environmental Protection.
So did we determine that our current code, because I found some conflicts, did we determine that it was legal to put it in front yards, as some people have it currently?
So when we looked at it on the 23rd, I gave you my opinion relative to that provision of the code. It says under section 3, so paragraph 3, locations allowed, artificial turf / synthetic turf shall be allowed in front, rear, and side yards, but not to exceed 50% of the total lot area. This area is defined as the total parcel area defined as the side or rear yard minus the area of the primary structure. Of the front, rear, and side yards, artificial turf grass shall not be allowed in any front yard areas or in any area visible from the public right of way, regardless of whether it's in the rear or the side yard, unless it's placed between paver blocks and similar items in a manner where the area for the artificial turf does not exceed 4 inches in width, provided the synthetic turf area does not exceed 50% of the total area of paver blocks. So in other words, you can have 4-inch wide turf, artificial turf in between paver block.
My understanding is that we had quite a few applications for installations in progress right now where it was solid, it wasn't restricted to 4-inch strips between paver blocks. Is that correct?
There's turf that was installed, there was no application.
All right, so what do we do about that? They're in violation.
So there's two things that you can do. You can sit back and wait until the Department of Environmental Protection issues its standards, or you can move forward with a code violation for them failing to obtain a building permit that was required under your code, and you would prosecute them before your special magistrate. So if you want to give direction to the city manager on how he's supposed to handle that, or you allow him to make that decision, that's up to you.
Let me make sure I understand the new law, in that it's asking that the department issue minimum standards. So I would think that that means there's some bar you have to be able to reach to be able to have it at all.
I'll just read the paragraph, what it says in the statute. The Department of Environmental Protection shall adopt minimum standards for the installation of synthetic turf on single-family residential property 1 acre or less in size. The standards must take into account material type, color, permeability, stormwater management, potable water conservation, water quality, proximity to trees and other vegetation, and other factors impacting environmental conditions of adjacent properties. So once they adopt those minimum standards in compliance with the state statute, we'll know what they're doing. And that's what it provides right now.
I mean, is your hunch that we are more generous than what will be minimum standards, or that the minimum standards might be more restrictive?
I think that the way I'm reading this is that they want people to be able to use synthetic turf.
Because it conserves water, you're not putting chemicals into the ocean because you're not fertilizing it, there's a lot of advantages happening.
And that'll override our code, right?
But we'll have to revise our code. We won't be able to enforce our code if it doesn't comply with those standards. But there's also lots of arguments from the environmental people saying that it doesn't allow water to permeate into the ground. Therefore, stormwater runoff is going to be greater. Therefore, it's going to force whatever's on the surface right into your waterways. So there's a lot of arguments both ways. But we'll know a little bit more when those standards are created.
I have a suggestion. I think that this would probably be the smartest move for us, is that maybe a letter needs to be written and delivered to everyone that we believe is in non-compliance with current code, and let them know establishes the standard, but you're on notice that we're going to take a look at you after the fact so that we know how to address this issue. Because I don't want to tell somebody to rip up their lawn and then a month later Florida says, no, they should have been able to have that. We've seen that before in your neighborhood, in fact, with other materials. So I think that would be the best route to go. What does everyone else think?
I don't think we have a dog in the fight here. I mean, I think the state's gonna come in, like Councilwoman said, says, we want the chemicals reduced, and this is a way to reduce it.
Maybe.
Yeah. Whenever the government puts out one word in minimum, just says, you can just about do whatever you want.
Yeah, well, we'll see. I would hope not, but it wouldn't be the first time that they've let me down. So, anyway, City Manager Reaper, how would you like to address it?
I think your suggestion makes sense. I'd like to give them some notification, because rather than hearing through like the grapevine that there's something off, and then, explain to them what the situation is. And when the state decides what they're doing, we'll know.
I prefer transparency and just let them know that, hey, currently you're in non-compliance, but that may change and we're not doing anything until we have the facts from the state.
I do like the suggestion that Jody had, which was an all-in-one approach to the repair. So I probably would want none, or at all.
Yeah,
So that if repairs are done, then owner's responsible.
definitely. But we'll have to wait and see what the state does, because they're infamous for dumping extra cost and responsibility on us whenever we really have to do this.
Do we have a timeline on those minimum standards? Seems interesting that they would pass a law and basically create a bucket for a law, but there's no law inside the bucket. It doesn't say so, establishment in 2 years.
I would hope for the next 6 months.
In that direction. We should be taking it. Okay. Any other comments?
I just add a couple of things, and that is, Lynn Reeves was very involved in that code review in 2021. And I know that it was a hot topic. I think that, I've been listening to meetings, reviewing all the information. I think that the final code was written incorrectly based on what Lynn told me. Lynn said that it's now approved, you can put artificial turf in the front yard. So I think somewhere there was a breakdown in communication. I don't think the intent was what we ended up with. And I don't know, and I know that almost everyone that was on that code review board has left the city. There's not only the employees, but also residents. I think the only one remaining is Rudy Davis. So it would be interesting to hear what Rudy has to say about their review on that.
Not a bad idea.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Could I ask everybody to move their microphones a little bit closer? They're having trouble hearing back here. Thank you.
Sorry.
That's all I have. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Next up is the city manager report. Mr. Reaper.
Thank you, Mayor. So, just an update on the hurricane. Has substantial damage. Structures were down to 6 that I have not heard anything from the owner. So I've been working with Attorney Trask, putting together code violation notices to get some kind of follow-up to get the action out of these, either a reevaluation or an application to either do an elevation project or a demolition. So I did some updates just to, there may be some more Elevate Florida. Right now I'm aware of 7 applications of our SD determined structures. I know of 8 that were determined substantially damaged that are demoing. We have more demolitions on top of that, but that's how many were actually substantially damaged. And then we have 8 plans to demolish, and 10 that actually have demolished. And then there's more that were not substantially damaged. So we have more demolitions probably closer to 20 to 30 throughout the city. And then I still have 9 that I need to get their full permit repair packages, so that I can do that reevaluation. So that's just a status update where we're at. And then Duke is supposed to have a meeting to get started on making the final decisions of what we signed off on, the right-of-way equipment for Phase 2 north of Causeway Boulevard, and then start on Phase 1. Again, I'm gonna, in our meeting, try to get an exact date of when they're gonna begin Phase 1. As you know, it's been, the conduit's been installed for quite some time, well over a year, but we're still waiting for Duke to get their crews out there to pull the cable through that conduit. The stormwater improvement, that's the hot topic. I have a full report from Gemini summarizing everything they learned from both manufacturers of the product that was used, the manufacturer's recommendations to correct where we need the outfalls shaped correctly to get the valves back in. So we have the full report, and I've provided the Attorney Trask. I'm gathering the information on how many construction days we're at for the project and all extensions that were requested and granted. So that I have those numbers, and I'm going to provide that to the procurement specialist of Attorney Trask's office, Attorney Eschenfelder, and he is going to help me write that letter, formal notice to the contractor to put some pressure to get this corrected as soon as possible. As far as the 7th Street valve that we're looking at, Vice Mayor Roberts put me in touch with another contractor because we've been trying. I think we're over 20 now. It's been difficult to get somebody out there to get another estimate for the dam we need to dry out the valve. But we are supposed to have another estimate given to us by tomorrow or Wednesday. It said midweek, so I'm going to bother them tomorrow. Getting that estimate, we hope it's a lower cost than our current estimate we got for a copper dam. But that's what we need to just at least have a sanity check on the pricing. But we'll know more by the time we have that estimate. I also have that short body valve that I wrote to you guys about that would go as a backflow preventer from the manhole. That would be the next upstream manhole from the outfall. I have that in my office. To get it into the box, we're going to have to possibly modify the ring above the manhole box. Again, we're not sure that that's the direction we're going to take. It's more of a backup measure, but I wanted to have that available to us because we need to have something ASAP. So that's where we currently stand. Let me continue on to code review services. We had a meeting. We were able to have a meeting in June where we finished chapters 94, 30, 38, and we got all the way up to chapter 50. So we're more than halfway through, and we have another meeting scheduled. It's going to probably be early August because we have one member who's having some availability issues. But it was brought up by that planning and zoning board that they wanted to look at the section 94-135, its uses for residential medium district 1, which is our multifamily properties. Inside that code section, you have things like the floor area ratio and the impervious surface area ratio. And they want you to look at some of those restrictions for development, analyze the current properties that are developed on those lots, and see what uses, what they're currently using the land for, as far as density, as far as the floor area ratio and the impervious surface area ratio, see how that compares, and possibly adjust those restrictions, make a recommendation to City Council of adjusting the use restrictions for residential medium district 1. I just want to make you aware that the board was looking at that.
Is this concerning the setbacks?
This is concerning density, floor area ratio, and impervious surface. It does have some mention of setback, but that's a separate section. A lot of those properties do not follow the current setback code, just for information. So we have the 9th Street Pump Station project is on the agenda as an item tonight, and then the 75th celebration that we'd like to plan, we are pulling together the Park and Recreation Board tomorrow at 2 o'clock. So we have 2 dates that we have blocked as a temporary hold: October 25th, it's Saturday, and November 15th, Saturday.
Anything else?
Just wanted to mention that we got a request from one of our multifamily properties that we have a beach access easement with, and it's a 50-year easement that was done in the, I believe, the early 2000s. As part of the beach renourishment program, we got a request to reversion. It's actually asking for a reversion from the easement. As part of the easement, it stipulates that when requested after 30 days, that easement will no longer exist after the request. So we did get that from one of the 4 easements for beach access, and I just want to make the council aware of that. It's my understanding, after speaking to Attorney Trask, that there's really nothing that we can do once they've made that request and the time expires. But I thought maybe possibly we could ask them to reconsider as a body.
Which beach access is it?
It would be the one granted by Tortugas kind of thing.
About
The south of Morgan.
I have a question. What does this do to beach nourishment in front of that?
So my understanding is these accesses, these easements, all were done by design to meet the state's, with the amount of people that these beaches need to serve to get the grant funding. And these easements, the bike racks, and all the parking that was made available just qualify us. So when we lose something like this, we no longer qualify for the funding.
Is there any, do we have anything else that we can give up in the event that we can't get this dialed back in? It's that a narrow access.
So it's like a 4-foot sidewalk that's located near the bike rack that was part of the Gulf Boulevard Penny Money beautification. I think it has to be somewhat in proximity to that bike rack. I mean, I would have to talk to Dr. Bishop about the exact numbers that quantified to find out if there's any kind of substitution we could do.
Tom, are they aware that they could disqualify all of Miller Beach from beach nourishment by doing this?
I have not specifically talked to them. I'm not sure what Kyle has provided to them. I don't really know the information that they know. All I know is that the lawyer sent the letter saying, pursuant to the resolution that was adopted all these years ago, we have this right, and we're stepping forward to enforce that right.
And what were the conditions for that? You didn't respond quickly enough? What was the issue?
It's not about responding quickly enough. It has to do with the actual beach renourishment project that took place many, many years ago, and evidently, I'm not sure where that is in relation to,
So 1 year outside of what the cycle they should have been on.
Did I hear you correctly, he signed a 50-year beach easement
Yes.
originally?
The term, I don't have it in front of me. It was a 50-year time period, but there was a clause in there that within 30, if requested a reversion within 30 days at least, terminate. And I have not responded to the letter.
So basically, what's happened, because there's been delay after delay after delay, and they're way overdue for beach nourishment, they've
There's not much information in the letter, and I haven't spoken.
So that's what we're assessing, we're saying that we think it's because of the delay.
I think probably,
Mr. Mayor, they even under, they know that the county's going forward with another beach nourishment, they might not even.
I'm not sure. What Kyle and I were discussing earlier today was a possibility of maybe drafting a letter and having everyone on the council sign it and send it to them. Or possibly we have a meeting with them if they're willing to meet with us. But I think we need more information.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that Attorney Trask is on it, and he's going to keep us up to date. And I really hope that this does not ruin our chances of getting beach nourishment, because it would be very easy for them just to skip us just like they skipped Bel Air Shore.
Right.
Is there any argument that would excuse us on the basis of not impossibility of performance?
There's nothing in that resolution that you can hang your hat on that I can see. It wasn't even in the form of an easement that would have been recorded in the public record with the grantor, we give it to the grantee, and it would show the conditions, and it would show, specific legal descriptions and so forth. It was a resolution that was adopted by this council a number of years ago saying, we will do this if you do that. It wasn't done the way that a real estate attorney would have it be done. And I don't know the reasoning for the reason it was done that way. There had to have been some reason, but it's the way the document is drafted. It's not helpful to the city.
Here's another question. Are all of our beach accesses that way?
They're all the same, from what I was able to see.
I'll
So
double
we
check.
could lose every beach access.
No, I'm talking about the 4-foot sidewalk beach access.
Right, that's right. So the
About 6 of them.
trails, yeah.
It's 4.
So we need to be proactive with the other ones probably.
I'm thinking that this is more of an education, an opportunity for education. Make them aware. I mean, they saw what happened. We didn't have a beach, and we had a little bit of a dune, but anywhere where it was broken, it was a catastrophe. And we saw concrete lifted up. We saw, lawns wrecked, pools wrecked, sliding glass doors wrecked. We saw everything because we did not have beach nourishment. Now we're right on the very edge of getting it. And they're going to do it right. It's supposed to be 5 feet deep in sand, 3 feet high dune, and it's going to go like 125 feet out or something sort of like that. It's a lot of sand, and we need it. We need it for our protection.
Well, because of that, could we not take it by eminent domain?
So there has to be, first of all, there has to be a public purpose for that taking, that private property. And there are some, I'm not sure when the case came down about 15 years ago, whether your charter provides that you go and take the private property for those types of purposes. I need to look at the charter to see if there is something added to that. But
I mean, there's clearly a public purpose here, so if it was for the betterment of the entire community.
It's in our Constitution. Plus, there's a couple cases in Walton County where something like this happened, where it went to the Supreme Court. Judge Scalia wrote a masterful decision forcing the owners to take the beach.
so we'll look into that and we'll come back to you with some type of thought process on what we should do going forward. I have made a note, and I'll get with Kyle on it.
In the meantime, I'd like to ask the council not to vocally speculate or over-speculate or even guess, because we don't know. Anything that's said could very well hurt our situation. So we need to handle this very carefully. And it's definitely a concern. Let's wait and see what Tom comes back with, and hopefully we'll have some guidance on what to do next. So,
Yeah, I like your approach of let's take a little time to listen and then maybe educate and see where we stand after that.
yeah, I don't know if they realize that they're in jeopardy of losing beach nourishment. Yeah, I think that's the problem.
Yep.
It's an area, I think, that thinking of, they benefited greatly from those dunes. And
Part of it might be the traffic on the beach.
Or
It might be the activities directly on the beach. They're kind of in between Morgan Park and in between the Bellary Beach Hotel that is, or resort, whatever it is, very active. You know, doing beach cleanup where the mess is, and they're dead in the middle.
I guarantee you're 100%,
Yeah.
not even 99%. It's beach activity, but that's what you get when you live on the beach, you know?
Yeah, and we won't know until they make that phone call and meet with them. So
Yeah.
we'll leave it to our attorney, I guess.
Okay. Anything else?
That was all, thank you.
All right. Any questions or comments for the city manager?
Yeah, honored here. Kyle, you mentioned on the stormwater, the pipeline repair, that's the first one you mentioned, right? And you said, and I've read the letters and stuff, and so up on that. So we're gonna take this approach, trying to careful how we see if we can get them to help us, right? We're trying to work nice,
Yes.
right?
We've done the homework and we're basically telling them how to do it.
Right. And it says you're suggesting a deadline. What's a rough, can we get a rough idea of a deadline we're gonna set?
I want to talk to Attorney Escherfelder to get an idea what he thinks.
Oh, another attorney?
Yeah,
Or
he's the procurement specialist for Thomas.
Smith Partner.
any rough guess, or you just don't even want to go like any public safety yet?
I just don't know what's customary. I want to just kind of feel them out. I'm going to be pushing it as soon as possible.
Right.
But I don't want to be.
Because I'm definitely here to big time. I'm sure you guys are here.
Right.
Lots of complaints about the check valves.
Here's a question I got from two residents. They were out of their houses for months. Lots of their driveways got ruined because the bobcats pushed trash into the street and everything like that.
Right.
So they took the time and energy and money to restore their driveways.
Right.
Seal coated them.
Right.
And now the salt water.
Salt water is being back up, right?
So they're saying, why am I paying the stormwater tax? Should I be suing the city? Should I be suing
Right.
the contract? No, and they,
Right.
I think they have a legitimate.
Right, now the pipeliner one is more like for 9th and some of the other streets, right? It's not such a big issue for the 7th Street one, right? The 7th Street one.
It is 9th, 12th, 13th,
And 4th, or is it down there, 4th too?
and
4th, right. So yeah, the 7th one, I got a similar complaint for the 7th and 8th Street, which is the second topic that I wanted to raise. So, but anyway, so in the meantime though, I mean, I'm trying to think of how long to wait for this feedback, and should there be something we can do shorter, temporary, like put the check valve in maybe, and like some temporary seal around it to help it work for a little bit until we can get, I don't really know, I can imagine how I might repair my own pipe, but you know.
So we looked at two things. That's what the idea of the short body valve is something temporary. And then we also looked at,
Work for 9th Street, or no? The short body valve?
so there could be a temporary solution for all, but each one of these valves run about $60,000. So they're not
Is that 60?
ordering like
$60,000.
So ordering like 5 valves for temporary.
Right, okay. Now I was thinking of ways that we could use the existing valves, and, because right now the seal is not good enough, and it's just gonna blow past them, right?
So the reason we didn't do the duckbill temporary valve on the outside is because we think the water is getting down through the ground, so we didn't think that would be effective. That's why I went up to the next segment to get the short body valve, because I know that that'll be a good seal from that point.
Okay. That's for the 9th Street.
That's for 7th Street.
Okay, well, I'm still staying on the 9th Street.
I'm sorry.
Okay, still on the 9th Street. It's the 9th Street and it's 4th and all the liner issue, right? That's where it's all wavy and you can't seal the check valve to a wavy round surface, right?
Right, you
There's
can't
gonna be
get
all these
it
little
out.
cracks for water to come pass around, right? What can we do temporarily to help that work while you're getting this vendor or supplier to correct the problem?
So I wanted to pressure the Wind River into hopefully some kind of solution that they can come up with.
Okay, so maybe they could provide us a temporary, short-term solution while they work on the more permanent correction.
I don't know if they can, but if they have access to,
Okay.
Yeah.
So can we ask them? We'll ask them.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Just get some pressure to really move on that a little more. So, okay, on the 7th Street one, which we know that's a different problem. That's not a liner issue. That's a concrete, how they stuck it in there, right? It's a
Right.
concrete issue. It leaks right through the bottom of that. So we're gonna build this big dam around it so that we can get on there and then figure out how to fix it, right? We just gotta get all the water away and have it be dry so we can say, is there, and we've gotten one quote. We got a second one, you said coming tomorrow, or
I'm gonna call them while they said midweek.
how many quotes do we need to move forward?
I have one. We could operate with one if we had to, but I'd like to see one.
Okay, all right, one more, okay. And then, again, for that scenario, I don't know how long the timing, like, that's once we pick it, and then we're gonna, I guess, move forward with it. I don't know how long it's gonna take to construct it, but it sounds like weeks, months type of thing.
No, once we have an estimate, if we move forward with a PO, it sounded like they could probably mobilize in a week or so. And we were talking
We
about.
have a dam up in about a week, once we commit, once we get the
Yeah.
land. Okay.
And we're looking at a window of about a month. We're asking to have it would be less if we get in there and repair it faster.
And this is gonna be out of our pocket for now, while I know we're still pursuing some remuneration for the, either the engineering guidance that we poured, or the construction design that was poured, whatever, but I know they messed up, right?
Yes.
Somebody messed up.
I mean, originally I had it looked at, by Attorney Trust's firm. The way the change order, it was not on the original plan, the change order was accepted. I don't think there's any recourse.
Okay. All right, but at least we're gonna move forward, and I don't know, we can talk later about if we wanna pursue any remuneration or anything.
We're gonna be stuck with the bill.
We're gonna expect the bill for whatever, it's 50,000, 40, whatever, but it needs to be fixed, so we can work out. At least my opinion is that we could wait to work on it. Don't wait to solve the legal problem.
You're talking about 7th Street.
7th Street, the 7th Street one, yes, I'm talking about the 7th Street one that he's gonna put the dam around so we can fix it. It's way bad on 7th Street. I think that's I've been doing lots of pictures. It's the worst street of all from backflow.
That's what I've heard.
From check out, it's the worst by far.
All last week, we
I've heard nothing but a desperate cry for help.
Yeah, desperate cry for help, so.
all last week, we had anywhere from 2 feet of water in there and Crescent Street every day.
Right.
Every day.
So I appreciate it. That's interesting to hear that you think we can maybe get this damn thing up in, say like Big Dam Dam, whatever. Hoover Dam, not so long ago, Big Dam Dam. Yeah, so that we might be able to do something in 2 to 4, maybe 4 weeks, I don't know, something like that. It's in that ballpark. I don't want to lock any commitment.
So the good news
Seems
is-
like it's in that ballpark.
The good news is once the dam is installed, there'll be a pump operating, so that'll actually take care of the problem with the dam in place.
Okay, temporarily while we try,
Yes.
it holds temporarily until we get the
So
proper
the
seal
flood will
done,
stop.
and then we tear down the dam, and now we're hopefully working correctly. Okay.
So we're gonna have a pump operating the entire time the dam is erected.
Well, it'll be a large pump and it'll kick on
Whenever it's
Well,
so that should alleviate the problem, which will also be a good litmus test for the argument of needing a pump.
Right, that's true.
Yes, absolutely.
Those early signs on that, yeah. Okay, so I guess I won't push on trying to find even shorter temporary solutions for 7th Street.
If you can, I'm all for anything.
I don't really have any great ideas, and the check valve's still in there, right? It's in
The
there.
body of it, not the inside of it.
Oh, you took that? Yeah, oh, leopard valve is empty. Okay, there is no check valve there. Okay.
In the case of 7th Street, I don't know if this is possible or not, but I would like to propose adding some weighting to the weighting. So if one of them is a long weight and it's cheaper, and one of them is a short weight and it's a little more, I would say go with a little over and over. You can always tell because whenever you're coming home at 5 o'clock, it's a record low. So you know what's coming around the corner.
Okay,
All right, so Seventh Street, let me just review this. So Seventh Street is our fault, or we?
No. not our fault.
It's not our fault,
Are you
but it's
addressing
our,
the city manager or
That's right,
are you addressing others?
I'm addressing the manager, but I welcome any other comments. My understanding is that, at least right now, we're looking at 7th Street as our issue to resolve. And we've got a temporary solution. We're going to be able to move ahead, get the dam, which will fix the pump, and that takes care of 7th Street. Am I stating that correctly?
Then, that is the plan.
All right, then for the other streets, how many are there where the check valve has been removed?
They're 4th, 9th, 12th, 13th, and 18th, so 5.
Okay, I thought there were more, so it's 5? All right, I thought there were more. So for that, we're in the middle of storm season. We have no check valve at all in these areas. So what, and we're going to talk tomorrow in terms of trying to get a demand letter out tomorrow, and this will go to the, will it go to our the general contractor or to the sub?
This will go to the general contractor.
Okay, so we'll go to the general contractor. What is our temporary plan there? Because let's assume that this is not going to, they're not going to roll over, presumably, or they would have taken accountability during these last many months. So what's the temporary plan for these remaining streets?
I don't have a temporary plan because of the order time. So when we looked at these ductile valves that they're on the outside, that could be temporary. Not only the price is a deterrent, but they're custom-made valves, so they were a 6-week lead time. So I really didn't see it. I was hoping the possibility of once they're on notice that they have access to something in stock or through possibly have a temporary solution, but that's no stretch.
So these check valves were not repairable.
The valves are in good shape. They're repairable. They just can't get back into the pipe.
Okay, and that's on 5 streets.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I was asking briefly earlier, so I mentioned that, you know, it's a wrinkly surface, and you put the check valve in. The check valve's fine. It's the pipe that we're putting in that's bad. We're trying to put it into a pipe, and it won't seal up against the pipe. So I asked him, okay, what is a backup option? And he said he didn't have one yet, but he said he might want to talk to the vendor that's going to do this repair and hopefully fix it. And he said he would ask him if there's some other backup things that we could do in the short term while we wait for them to settle this repairing the liner. It's the liner that we lined all the pipes with that's damaged or is not round. So you can't put a round gasket into a non-round hole. Like put a round thing in a square peg. It's not going to work.
Here's the situation. It's our street. There are pipes. Our vendor made some serious mistakes.
Right.
We're going to go after them to try to make them accountable for that error. But I mean, in the meantime,
Yeah.
we still have a responsibility to take care of our streets. And my suggestion would be that when you negotiate with them, you can say, look, you fix this. You're accountable. There's no question. You deal with this and deal with it immediately. Or we will get somebody to deal with it immediately, and that will be at their cost, for which this errant provider will be responsible.
And that's what I do that I asked.
They can mitigate their own damages by taking care of it themselves now. And if not, then we need to go out and take care of it, and take care of our citizens. And whatever cost that is, they're going to have to bear it at some point.
I'm totally agree.
I brought that up in February's work session when 2.8 feet. Nobody wanted to push, thought we could work it out in a reasonable manner. Now, starting tomorrow, come on down to 7th Street, 8th Street, 9th Street. At 10 o'clock in the morning, you'll have water in the street. Okay, you'll have water in the street till next Tuesday until the tide goes back to 2.8 feet.
So do we need to put something in this document we've been working on with Gemini to include the temporary fix till they can do the permanent fix? Do we need to put something in the document that requests that as well?
I think the best way would be a letter from the city with
Okay.
their report as an attachment or referencing their report. I have not spoken to the attorney that I need to.
Okay.
But I want to go over all this.
Okay, appreciate that. Follow up on it. Thanks.
I guess the last question I have is, are we worse or better off than we were before we pulled out the check balance?
Right now, we're worse off. Once we have them all back in, we'll be better off. There was a risk. But I'll tell you, after this project, anytime we're messing with a valve or a location, it's going to be a lot different consideration. I didn't realize
One at a
the
time.
water is a different situation than we originally put in.
I would say one at a time for sure. All right, any other questions or comments before I move on to the city clerk report?
Can I ask,
Yes.
City Manager? I had a resident reach out and I CC'd you on my response related to the city's marina parking. What is the current structure? Is it paid parking or is it permit parking?
It's park mobile parking, so that lot has its own number, and it's just through the app.
So the complaint was that effectively residents were being, I won't say harassed, but effectively people were parking in the marina parking lot on the daily rate and then cutting through the condominiums, and effectively they were complaining about abuse. They were jumping in the pool, they were bringing their cars in to unload their cars, they were carrying chairs through the patio area. So I guess the question I would really have is, do we have a significant utilization rate for the marina parking or non-resident parking, or is it something that we should consider making it permanent-only parking, or is it something that we should be working with the condominiums as far as what should they do to restrict access to the property for people cutting through?
It's a minimal revenue source, the marina parking lot. It did its best during COVID, and that really did set off a lot of the condominium properties there when they were getting a lot of traffic. They've died down since. There is one of those easement 4-foot accesses right there, so there's an easy access point for that lot. I don't know what's changed where these people are deciding to go on private property, mess with their stuff. So I don't know if we want to cut off the lot completely because of that, but we definitely, the police did respond, and we definitely will have the police respond if we're aware of the activity.
Should we look at doing a directed patrol for that parking lot, just so that there's, because the complaint was that they called the police, but the police say they have to visibly see the action happen, and therefore they can't act if they haven't physically seen the offense.
I just wouldn't want to like sit at every
No.
specifically there.
I'm just trying to figure out how to, I think it's a combination of a bunch of things. I think I think the condominium associations have to do something to protect their property, but I think the city also needs to kind of mitigate access as far as how are they accessing the properties. These 4-foot easements become an interesting conversation too. If those easements go away, what happens as far as cross traffic through the condominiums and people? This is a much bigger issue than I think just a topical issue about how people are parking. I just wanted to raise the topic to see if there was, if shutting off parking to non-residents and making it a permanent-only lot, does that solve the problem, or is that just only exacerbate the problem? I don't know. I'm just trying to figure out what are the options we can present to the associations and or the owners.
Doesn't that marine park help us with beach renourishment for public access? Because that was why it was
Part of the requirement.
Second of all,
What
condominium associations should put up a code access at their parking facility. That's not the city's responsibility. There's so many private security firms that can control that. They're going to have the belly up with water. I mean,
I think it's a combination. I think we need to address our side, but they need to address their
yeah,
side.
well, we have one deputy, and we can't have that deputy parked down there because people are walking through their beach. Like again, you live on the beach. What do you think people do? They go to the beach. All right. Don't live on the beach if you don't want to see that access.
I think it's more, I don't think it's about the access. I think it's more about the cut through and the abuse.
Well, it is, but I mean, yeah, but That's why you're cutting through to get to the beach.
All right, are we
I got the
solving
same.
the problem, or are we just having a discussion? If we're just having a discussion, I'd like to move on.
Move on.
All right, everybody good with that? All right. Now we're up to item number 7. Hi, Kathy. How you doing?
Excuse me if I can go back just a minute, because I'm not hearing any kind of finality in terms of the check valves. I'm wondering, should we call a special meeting, and so that we can...
Tell you what, let's put it on a work session so we can discuss it further.
That's-
Okay? Because I don't think we have a solution at this time.
Well, and that's what I'm saying, is that if we don't have one now, we need to hear the input of what's going to take place in the next 2 days or whatever, and then be able to put a plan in place. So
I still think it's going to require a work session, and we don't have anything carved out in this meeting that's going to resolve this tonight.
I understand that. What I'm asking for is that we schedule either a special meeting or some sort of work session now, so that we know.
I would encourage you to work that out with City Manager Riegler and call it, and see if he'll call a meeting.
Very good.
All right? Okay, back to the City Clerk report. Kathy, you have the floor.
Okay, I just have the report I turned in, and then just to let council know, Monday through Wednesday, I will be at the clerk's conference, so I will be out of the office.
All right. Anything else?
That's all.
Any questions or comments for the city clerk? No? All right. Moving on to items 8 and 9. This is the consent agenda. This is for approval of the June 2nd, 2025 City Council meeting minutes and approval of the June 23rd, 2025 City Council work session minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to approve is written and presented.
Motion is made by Councilmember Banker. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Shirley. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, the consent agenda passes. Now we are on to item number 10. This is consideration of ordinance 2025-02. This is the second reading. City Attorney Trask, would you please read the ordinance and provide us a brief summary of its objectives?
I'd be happy to, Mayor. So I'm going to read this ordinance by title only. City of Bel Air Beach ordinance number 2025-02, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Bel Air Beach, Florida, amending Article 5, Code Enforcement, Division 2, Code Enforcement Procedures generally, of the Bel Air Beach Code of Ordinances, providing for the use of a special magistrate for code enforcement hearings, removing references to town marshal and special master, providing for revised definitions and revised procedures, amending the process for fine and lien reductions, providing for implementation, providing for resolution of conflicts, providing for severability, and providing for effective date. That was the second final review of that ordinance by title only. As you know, there have been some suggested changes to the code to bring it more current with the specific Florida statute provisions of Chapter 162. This ordinance does a couple of different things. It basically changes the wording of special master to special magistrate to be in compliance with that statute. It removes some outdated language that was in your code relative to town marshals and other small things. It also adds in a procedure or a process for fine reductions in the ordinance. And I believe that covers the main topics of the ordinance. But it is basically to just update the code to make it consistent and current with current state statute.
Thank you. Would any citizen like to comment on this ordinance before we move ahead? All right, citizen comments are now closed. Council, I need a motion to approve ordinance 2025-02.
So moved.
Second. That was Councilmember Shirley and oh, I'm sorry. All right. In that case, Councilmember Elliott, you have the floor.
All right, this is just a perfunctory change in the ordinance to make it more consistent with the rest of code and to deal with the more modern way of dealing with this. So I ask for everyone's support.
Other comments or questions, any debate or discussion on this ordinance?
Councilmember Frank Bankert.
Yes.
Councilmember Kimberly Shaw Elliott.
Yes.
Councilmember Todd Harper.
Yes.
Councilmember Jody Shirley.
Aye.
Councilmember Anders Wellings.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Lloyd Roberts.
Aye.
Mayor Dave Gaddis.
Aye. So the ordinance passes unanimously. Thank you very much, everyone. All right, we are on to item number 11. This is consideration to adopt resolution number 2025-03 to increase solid waste collection rates. City Attorney Trask, would you please read the resolution and provide any additional details for the council?
Yes, this is resolution number 2025-03, a resolution of the City of Bel Air Beach, Florida, approving a consumer price index indicated increase to the city's solid waste collection and disposal rates, making related findings and providing for severability and an effective date. As a background, you'll remember that the city entered into an agreement for the collection of solid waste or certain materials in October of 2023. The agreement specifically provides for CPI increases capped at 4% for the collection rate. Also, it allows for disposal rate increases. The vendor has asked for the capped increase of 4% for the collection rate and an 8% increase for the tipping fees or disposal rate. This resolution provides for those two increases. In Section 1 of the resolution, it provides that beginning on October 1, 2025, the bi-monthly solid waste collection rate shall be for multi-family dumpster, $53, for multi-family can, $58.50, for single family, $61.50. Also, beginning October 1, 2025, the solid waste disposal rate shall be increased to $58.86 per ton. That covers the resolution.
Thank you very much. Before we go to the council, would anyone, any citizens like to comment on this resolution? All right, as we have none, citizen comments are now closed. Council, I need a motion to approve resolution 2025-03.
Motion.
Motion is made by Councilmember Baker. Do I have a second?
Second.
I'm going to give that one to Vice Mayor Roberts. Mr. Baker, you have the floor.
We have no choice.
Enough said. Any other comments from the council? Any debate, discussion?
Can I ask a clarifying? Why does a dumpster cost less than a single family home?
I believe that's per unit.
Per unit rate. Yeah, per unit fees. When they initially established these rates, I don't know the reasoning of how they started. All I've been doing is keeping the proportions with the increases. So if it's ever something that we want to analyze or look at.
It just seems strange to have a multi-family dumpster at 53 and a single family home at 61. It just seems-
Well, wait a minute now. This is not just, this isn't the dumpster. This is per unit, I believe, in the condo. So every condo owner pays this amount for one pickup in a big can. Okay?
All right, I'm satisfied.
Okay. They get a discounted rate for not having to have multiple pickups.
Got it.
All right. Any other comments or questions about this? All right. Let's take it to a roll call vote. Kathy?
Councilmember Frank Bankert.
Yes.
Councilmember Kimberly Shaw Elliott.
Yes.
Councilmember Todd Harper.
Yes.
Councilmember Jody Shirley.
Aye.
Councilmember Anders Wellings.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Lloyd Roberts.
Aye.
Mayor Dave Gaddis.
Aye. So resolution 2025-03 passes unanimously. I think we had to do it, but the county gets what the county wants. All right, now we are on to item number 12, which is consideration of invitation to bid the 9th Street Pump Station Project. City Manager Riefler, you're up.
Thank you, Mayor. So at the last work session, we discussed the two pump sizes. We have the original pump, which is the SEA 308, and then we have the 312, which is the larger pump. It's twice the capacity. The Gemini completed their analysis of the pump station, and did modeling, presented that at the work session. We also did a comparison table, put the pumps side by side to try to show how the project would change. But I just want to remind everyone that the larger pump is a conservative estimate. It's not, they have not actually done the design work, so it could be less. And then member Anders Wellings did he did some homework of his own, and he has some supporting information. And I did bounce that off of Gemini. They don't want to give an actual estimate for the larger pump size until they actually do all the design work, because they feel like if they put their name on it, they would like to have it do that work. But so you have the two pump sizes. We know that one's going to be roughly about 665,000 is the estimate for the smaller pump, the original design. And then, through our analysis and our reporting, we wanted to look into a larger size pump and how that would affect the project. And that's why we have that larger pump size. And then during our work session, we discussed it. We didn't quite arrive on which plan we thought was better or a consensus by council, but I did put this on that if we are to put it to bid, because there's two sides. We obviously want to analyze and set ourselves up for the best project to learn from in the future of the city, but we also have a lot of residents in that area that have been dealing with this nuisance flooding for a very long time, and that they want to see action. So I wrote two recommendations. One was being if we do put this pump station out to bid, where we would currently stand, I feel that the original pump size project, everything that was originally discussed when Gemini formulated that proposal for what member Banker was looking for, and back then it was a 4-member council. But I thought that still was on point with what we were intending when we decided to move forward with the design of the project. But there is a risk that if we do bid out this pump station and we're not quite ready to award it, that we may lose out on contractors that could have done the work at a good price. So as an alternative recommendation after talking to Gemini, we could approach contractors that have experience in this work and ask for it. It would be an unofficial bid, but we would have solid numbers from contractors that do this work that give us a better idea for the next budget workshop, which is on the 21st of this month, so that we can discuss the strategic plan and how we're going to budget this in the future.
All right, before we go to questions and comments from the council, or we go to debate on this, I want to take this to the citizens for comments. I'm going to call up Mr. Will first because I cut him off, and now is your time.
No problem. As I said, I attended that work session. I was kind of disappointed because I went home and the only solution that we had was to come up with a bid. That's not necessary, because what is that going to solve? We need a solution. So the solution can only be, first of all, if we have a deadline. They have no deadline. This goes on for years and years and years. You have to set a deadline when this project is going to be finished. The second is no bid. We have to find out, do we want a small pump or a large pump? Just vote on that and then get going. And the third is, like Council Member Shirley mentioned at the meeting, we have no money. Well, but you have no solution. So with other words, if you know you don't have the money, then find a way how to get the money. You might have to assess the citizen here in Bel Air Beach. But as I said, if you don't have a deadline, nothing will happen. And it's going to be another year and another year and another year. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Mr. Will. Do we have other citizens that would like to speak on this topic? No? All right, citizen comments are now closed.
I want to say something.
Oh, we did have, all right. Please come up and give us your name and address.
My name's Laurie Moline. I live at 941 Cedar Drive, or I used to live there until my house got torn down. I am concerned about the flooding as well. You mentioned 7th, 8th, 9th Street. Cedar Drive has been flooding since the day I moved in. The end of the street, we were promised before the hurricane that the pump would be fixed. I guess there's some kind of closure that needs at the end of the street where the water comes in from the sewer. Every high tide, full moon in the fall. But it started early this year. I've seen it flood already this year. And we were promised that it would be taken care of before the Hurricane Helene. They were paving the road, doing the curbs over, and it was going to be taken care of then. Well, it hasn't been done. I've been promised so many times, I've been told so many times by different people that are present that this is on the agenda, will be taken care of. I didn't hear one word about it. Have any idea about Cedar Drive? That's my question.
Thank you. Any other comments? Citizen comments? All right, citizen comments are now closed. Council, so we can start discussing this. Can I get a motion for authorization of the city manager to put this job out to bid?
Motion.
Motion is made by Councilmember Baker. Do I have a second?
Second,
Who said that?
Elliot.
Okay. All right. Mr. Baker, you have the floor.
My only question on this whole thing is what size pump? And like stated before, I'm for the bigger pump. I think we can utilize the bigger pump for other streets in the future if this works. And that's the only setback I have. I really don't believe the added cost is going to be as much as speculated to for the additional size.
Councilmember Welling, you have a question?
Yeah, no, I just wanted to build on that topic. So yeah, I'd say first and foremost, I support moving forward with the bidding process and support putting the pump in eventually once we get that. However, I would still like to keep the option open to ultimately move forward with the larger pump, which has twice the capacity. And my thought process behind that is that when he did the assessment, and I spoke with the Gemini engineering firm, they selected, we debated it a lot, they selected the third worst rating. We wanted some history to build a case for what size pump it was. Let's just throw a dart and pick a pump. Like, let's do some actual evaluation. Can't predict the future, but we can review the history. So when he did that for me, he picked the storm that we gave pictures for. It happened to represent the third worst rain event in 2024. And as you know, when he did the modeling, he showed that indeed the pump would basically keep all the water from that event in the storm sewer system. So it wouldn't even be on the street. That sounds great, right? But I think it's important to recognize that there were two larger events that happened in that same year. And that's why I asked Gemini Engineering to consider some larger events. They weren't willing to, I guess, look at a specific event, but they then chose to say, well, let's just add 50% rate to it. And maybe that represents one of the storms that's bigger. And so they did that assessment. And in that case, the pump that they recommended does not clear the street. And, it does. And I'm thinking more about peak flooding. I mean, I know it's important to think about how fast the rain goes away from the street, but I think it's also important to consider the peak flooding. I mean, I don't think people care a whole lot if they're flooded, if the garage gets flooded and it went away really quickly. The garage still got flooded. So I felt that it's important to assess peak flooding as well. So when I thought of that, that's when he showed us the 50% greater, rainfall example, which I assumed might capture some of these more realistic, some of these events that actually happened. And in that case, I guess in those examples, the rain did, in that example, it did enter the driveways, it did potentially have entered the garages if I did this 50% increase example. So and that's one reason why I think the larger pump would better ensure protection for us. I did do some homework on some numbers. I know I'm not a pump expert, but I am an engineer and I know a little bit about fluid dynamics and stuff and so on. But Gemini's original estimate, I used that estimate. I took the numbers they generated for like the 650 amount, and I just did line by line. Is it impacted if we go to a bigger pump? Is this line impacted by a bigger pump? And the majority of them are not impacted by going to a bigger pump. And just some rough estimates, I said it's not going to be $200,000. It's probably going to be closer to like $40,000. The pump itself is like $15,000 more expensive. That's all. So to me, again, I think that's a worthwhile investment. If we're going to do this pump, we're going to spend $650. To me, spend the additional $42 and buy some more insurance, greater protection. I think these storm events are likely to get worse. So I think that would give us better protection. It would also, I think this double capacity, twice the capacity in this pump would also better position us for future expansions. This investment would be possibly able, like we talked, I think Gemini said that we could possibly link in 7th and 8th. And I do believe this does address Cedar Drive as well, because it's tied into 9th Street. So this whole pump and check valve issues we've been talking about does include Cedar Drive in that picture. But anyway, I pictured, like I said, it better positions us for the future storms without having to spend another $650 the next time. This is a pilot to consider expanding future streets, and we know we have more than what we have. We probably have 3 or 4 streets to consider, maybe 5 streets to consider investing in. So I don't know. That's my point.
Thank you. We'll go over to this side. Councilman Elliott.
Well, obviously, I'm very much in favor of moving forward with this. It's been many years in the making. It is time to move forward with some definitive action. We are in the middle of this storm season. If we act now, we might have something by next storm season. So I think that's important to keep in mind also. And this is part of our responsibility as a city, is that we have to have safe streets, we have to have a floodplain management program, and this is part of it. So we're addressing this street first as the pilot, as a learning opportunity, so that we can make any kind of improvements or take advantage of some enhancements, as Anders has just suggested. So I think this is a good plan moving forward.
Thank you. Councilmember Shirley, I'm going to come back to you in just a minute. Mr. Arbor.
I tend to lean toward the larger pump, mainly for the fact that we are dealing with a 9-month lead time for pump construction. So the idea that we are planning for capacity of today and not planning for capacity tomorrow, I tend to think that the investment of the insurance of the bigger pump would be the way to go.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Shirley.
In the construction business, I'll say it's foolish to go to bid on a project we're not certain we're going to move forward with. So I believe Kyle's suggestion to ask for some proposals rather than take it to an official bid is a good idea. Because as we go into budget season, we have to have some idea what this is going to cost. The $600,000 price has been sitting out there for about 4 or 5 years. So that number is probably not a very accurate number. I would be interested to see some numbers so we can figure out how to tackle it. But going to an official bid is a mistake.
Thank you very much. Vice Mayor Roberts.
Thank you. I agree with Councilmember Shirley. I've worked for public government agencies for more than a little while. I've never seen a bid go out for any project that did not already have a budget assigned to it. And any contractor that you talk to that bids government projects will always come in and what's budgeted for this job. And because we have to give that to them, they'll know that. They then follow that up with, if they don't think they can do the job for the budgeted amount of money, they won't put the time and effort into it. But they're going to want to know that number. They're not going to bid on a project typically. Well, they probably have never seen that before. When they ask what's budgeted for this project, and the government agency says, well, we don't really have money budgeted for it yet, they're going to be reluctant to spend any time on it. So I also agree that having Jim and I speak with the contractors that they're familiar with to get some numbers from them without going out to an official bid is the right way to go.
Thank you very much. Mr. Reefer, I would like to ask you what your thoughts are on, number one, budgeting. If you were to put this out for bid, how would you pay for it?
Well, personally, when this project started, it was, again, we were talking kind of a little bit more simpler. We were talking pilot. We were talking pretty rough design, concept-wise, learning from the experience. But now when we're looking at upgrading, we've done a lot of more evaluation. I mean, I understand residents want this done immediately, but when you're talking about budgeting and planning, I would recommend that we do an analysis of our debt and kind of lay out our payback plan for our current bond issue, and then base kind of like our surplus of our reserves and what we feel we can build into that budget before we make any decisions. That's my recommendation.
All right, thank you very much. Any other comments, questions?
I would think that a informal request for proposal information would be faster, perhaps. I think if it's less formalized, it might be faster, and would you think it would be just as accurate?
I think it's going to be pretty close because the contractor is not going to want to put their time into it unless they have a number that they can work with. And it will be a lot quicker turnaround than an actual bid in the time period involved.
So what I'm hearing is that there is an opportunity to amend this to I guess, ask for estimates for budgeting purposes. Is that what that sounds like?
Yeah, which is what Jim and I was suggesting, right? I mean, that was the Jim and I recommendation, they would do a better estimate for us. Is that what I heard, Kyle, you said?
So everything is based on we want it done now or we want it done as soon as possible. So if we can make a decision that we want to design a larger pump, I'd like to get them started at least on those hours of putting that together so that they can do that work. And then we could bounce the design now of the smaller pump to get an idea of the numbers. But once they have the design done for the larger pump, that's the direction we want to go. Then I'd like to get those numbers as well.
But the priority is to work the budget strategy. In order to do that effectively, we need, are you feeling that the estimates we have right now are going to be effective to go into a budgeting scenario with it?
I feel Gemini has done their homework for the 660. I think that's
And you think
solid
that would
number.
still-
I don't think it's as dated as 4 or 5 years because they came up with it this year with their design. So I feel confident, and I feel like they're confident about that number. That's why they gave it to us.
Okay.
But with the larger one, they did not want to do it unless they actually did the design work. So I'd like to get them started. If that's the direction we want to go, I'd like to get them working.
So before someone does a motion to amend this consideration of bidding and changing it over to an estimate for budgeting, just so that everyone out there would know, what type of timeline does that allow for establishing a budget and having the money to actually pay for a project like this?
Okay, so if we get, John and I said that it would take about 30 hours to do the next design up. If I get get them going on it. I think that depending on how much other workload they have, that they can get that done in a matter of a couple, 2 to 3 weeks. They can at least have that design done and do and speak to some contractors to get the numbers for that. And then as far as analyzing our reserves, I gotta ask Ms. Blacktonley, our finance consultant, I need to have her do what she did prior to the bond issue and do an analysis of a 5-year rollout of kind of our projections. That might take about the same amount of time to check with her. But I would like, this is something that we've discussed prior to when the hurricane hit. We got into that whole recovery period. It's something that we discussed with the citizens advisory committee. We wanted to analyze and start talking about paying back this bond, and then we kind of got sidetracked. So again, that would be my steps. I need to speak to Ms. Guagnoli about creating that report. I hope to have it done by the budget workshop or soon after if we need another meeting. But that would play into the analysis. But I'd like to get Jen and I started on the pump design. If we can at least have a consensus from council that that's the direction we want them to focus on.
Council?
What's the budget for another 30 hours?
Their rates, they vary per position. I think the senior engineer is still at under $300 an hour.
Did you say 100?
Under 300, yeah. I have to pull the rate sheets. I mean, it won't be 30 hours 30 times. It won't be that large. I mean, they haven't actually asked for it, but I think at this point, after the original proposal, asking them to design a whole separate plan, I feel like we should pay them the additional hours.
Do we already have Jim and I under contract for developing all of the plans and specifications to go out to bid?
Yes, that was in the original.
Okay. So they haven't actually done that yet?
No.
Okay. So that would take some time. And I would assume that even the contractors that they're going to be speaking with, they probably want to be able to give them. I mean, if I'm a contractor, let's say, well, I need the plans and specs, so I can give you a price that I think is accurate.
Right. So they can start getting pricing now with what they've designed.
Okay.
Well, I don't think we should be in fear of having a contractor not entertain us seriously. Contractors bid work, hoping to get work. Sometimes they're up against one contractor, sometimes they're up against dozens of contractors. Whenever you bid on a government job, you're always at risk of that government pulling the bid before it starts and even during the project. And I'll give you 2 examples. The wall. Donald Trump put the wall in effect. Joe Biden stopped it overnight. Another one is the Marcel Shale project for gas. Went into effect. Joe Biden comes into office, stopped overnight. Contractors just had it up and leave. So every contractor is going to look at the opportunity. Do I want this job? And they're going to bid the job whether they want it or not. So we need to get this. I don't know how else to put it. We either have to take a crap or get off the pot. I mean, this is long enough. I mean, we can just keep on talking about it, and watch the water keep eating away in people's driveways, their lawns, and everything like that. It's not going to get any better. So I don't know why we just don't do this job. I mean, we have a stormwater tax. I'm all for raising the stormwater tax. I hate raising taxes. I'm all for putting a bond together. We put a stormwater $2.5 million bond, I believe, a year and a half ago for the city to get these jobs done. Look at what the salt water's done to those streets already. It's cracking, all right? Because my argument was you can't put 1 inch of blacktop down over 1 inch of can't put 1 inch of blacktop over existing cracks, or those cracks will come back. I ran that by the Gemini Engineering. I was in the blacktop business for 40 years. We never do work like that. They said they will come back. With the salt water, they'll just come back fast. So either we do this job, or just have the citizens commit an anarchy on this island.
All right.
Could someone refresh my memory on the procedure for a formal bid? Does it have to be published? Is there a timeline? How does that work?
The timeline is established by us, and we usually look for 3. Kyle, please.
Yeah, so the timeline is usually, it's going to be over a month, depending on the size of the project. Usually a little longer, it's better. But a lot of our projects we try to do as quickly as possible, like 4 to 6 weeks if we can, just to move things along. But yeah, there is a time period you have to give. You got to give it a reasonable amount, or you're not going to be able to get bids in for it.
So if we issue a request for bids and we give them a 4-week or 30-day timeline, then, and we do it right away, so let's say it goes out next week, then we have time before, not the next coming board meeting, but another one, to look at it and be able to potentially take some action. In the meantime, you're reviewing the budget, and we can have input from our accountants. There can't be that many people that do this, right? So
Problem is it takes months and months to get the parts in. You can't just buy them.
I understand that. That's why I said we're talking about being prepared for next year.
Right. Yeah. Currently, we have a motion on the floor to authorize the city manager to put this job out to bid. One option that I gave was to make a motion to amend that motion and change it to request for estimate for bidding, for budgeting purposes. That's where we stand right now.
Can I offer maybe one other, I really don't know what the reality is, but if we put it out to bid, can we put it in the bid that we're still working to finalize the budget for it? Or is that just going to be like a sign to them to just don't even bother? I don't know, I'm just asking. At least we're upfront with them that, we're trying, and we give them some likelihood that we think we're going to get this through a budgeting process, but I don't know. Just throwing on the table as another option to just be upfront with them so we're not destroying the contractors.
There's probably a way to gracefully phrase that.
Yeah, whatever, yeah. Help me with the words on it, but yeah, that's my point, is just being upfront with it, being transparent with the contractor, and then that not.
I think you're muddying the waters.
Okay, all right.
Mayor,
Yes.
should I propose amending this vote on it, to take it to, let's authorize the city manager to contact individual companies about estimates for a future project.
Okay. All right. Second.
Is it the city manager to do that, or Jim?
Jim.
Okay, I'm sorry, okay, Gemini.
The maker of the motion would have to make that amendment. It can't be made from the floor like that.
So it has to come.
It has to be the maker of the motion, and make the original motion to allow the motion to reflect correct suggestion. The maker of the motion wasn't letting me do that. The maker of the motion could also withdraw the motion.
I'm not withdrawing nothing. I want this project to go forward. Let's vote on it. Put people's names and votes to the task. Let's not muddy the waters. Let's just do it.
I'm with you, and I would also say that I don't want to pay for this twice. So if we're paying Gemini to actually assist us with the formal bid process, let's put the money there, because the same amount of effort is gonna go into an estimate, and then we'd be paying twice, because we've already committed for a payment for the bid process, so the work will have been largely completed by then.
Are we under obligation to award the bid if we receive 3 bids?
The answer is no. You're not obligated.
All right, so I'm willing to vote to move forward with this bidding process, knowing that we do not have the budget for it, and it means that the project will not move forward until we establish a budget for it. I will also remind everyone that at no time have we discussed assessing the people that are impacted that would benefit from this particular project. So that's something that, while we're in a work session, I would entertain, because currently we don't have the money to fund this project. It might actually get the ball rolling faster, and it might make everyone a little happier once they see the fruits of their own labors. So, with that being said, if there are no other comments,
Go ahead.
I just wanted to clarify that I know we've talked about salt water coming in and causing problems to the streets and the yards, which is definitely happening. My comment is, or my statement is that we clarified this in the workshop, that assuming, and I think it's going to happen relatively soon, all of the check valves that are installed on those outfall pipes that are currently allowing salt water to backflow onto the streets, once those are reinstalled and operating properly, we talked about that, and it was concurred that we would not be having any more salt water coming onto the streets and the yards unless we had a tie that actually greased the seawall. The pump system is specifically for fresh water. That once we have a scenario where we have a high tide where the water can't get out of the streets, and concurrently we have rain, a significant rain, there'll be water on the streets and potentially higher. And that's what the pump system is there to take care of. So it's not a saltwater issue once the check valves are operating properly and installed.
well, I'll add to that. It does actually pump out salt water whenever you have a seawall breach.
Right, that's what I said.
It's just occasionally that does happen.
It could happen, yes.
Just a question for the city manager. What do we pay a month for our mortgage right now that's about ready to end for this building?
Oh, we have one more payment.
So how much is that?
I have to look, I think it's 40,000 or 80,000, I can't.
40,000 a month, or?
It's 6 month payments, so it's biannual.
Okay. There's a big chunk to the pump right there.
So you're saying it's 40,000 for a 6-month period?
Yeah.
Okay. So 2 payments a year, that's 80,000.
But that's why we had a bond issuance, and that money's already earmarked. So I don't want to get into budget issues, but that's already been earmarked.
Mind if I call a question?
Please.
I'm going to do it by a roll call.
Do we get comments from the citizenry on this?
I'm sorry?
Do we get public comment on this?
We already did.
Oh, thank you.
Kathy?
Councilmember Frank Bankert.
Yes.
Councilmember Kimberly Shaw Elliott.
Yes.
Councilmember Todd Harper.
Yes.
Councilmember Jody Shirley.
No.
Councilmember Anders Wellings.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Lloyd Roberts.
No?
Mayor Dave Gaddis.
Yes. All right, so, Mr. Reefer, you are authorized to put this job out for bid, and we'll see what happens. All right, now we move on to unfinished business. Do we have any unfinished business? Any unfinished business? All right. Well, let's move on to council comments then. Let's start with Councilmember Baker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Last week I had an hour and a half talk Florida. It was supposed to get me a lot of information by today. I got it at 5:15 tonight. I'm going to share it with you, Mr. Reed, or by email. I really haven't had time to digest it. And I want to bring up a comment. I believe you made a comment earlier, Mr. Mayor, about mosquitoes. I'm getting complaints all over from my wife now. A couple of years ago, I did call the county. We had a bad wind on the one island. It blew a lot of them in here. And I didn't know this, but the county would come out and spray the area. And they said, you have to, the county has to be bid 3 times, like a 5-minute period. So he rang my door at 7 o'clock. I was making coffee. I opened the door and he says, I just got bid 5 times. So they sprayed the area for free. And they got rid of all the mosquitoes, I think. I don't know if you know the number again, or
Yes.
can you?
If you just tell me the areas, they want to know the specific areas that people are getting hit, but we can report all of them.
Ballard Beach.
Oh. We're only 2 miles. It can't be that hard.
I've reported from like 9th Street down
Well,
to
First-
6th Street, like, I can't really cover them.
First Street to the Causeway, I'm going to tell you. I mean, I'm just being sympathetic in my own area. If you want to
I'll try to
chime in, please do.
I think at Sunset, it's the entire neighborhood.
Yeah, I'm doing it. You might as well add 22nd into Narwhal. That's it. All right, thank you, Mr. Baker. Ms. Elliott.
Thank you to the council for getting some progress on this project.
Mr. Harper.
I just wanted to thank the city manager and the staff, just the work that they do, the idea of the banners on the poles and the banner over the causeway, and just the planning and the follow-through has been exceptional. So I just want to say thank you.
Councilmember Shirley.
Nothing further.
Councilmember Welling.
Yeah, I echo that it's been great working with Kyle and his staff. Really helpful through a lot of this pump discussion stuff, and I appreciate all the effort that he puts into this work. He does a lot for our community. Maybe another point. I have heard regarding I was wondering when we're going to bring back the discussion on the fire station leasing topic. That'll be another work session topic, maybe. I have heard from multiple residents, 2 residents, they love and support the local fire department, but they made it very clear they do not support any potential plan to lease this property to the fire department as a temporary site.
Okay.
That's it.
So we currently have a bid out to repair the house that includes some repairs if they were to use it.
Right.
That is scheduled to be, the due date is Wednesday next week.
Yeah.
I might push that back another week.
Okay.
Because I want to work on some details for the finishing schedules.
Okay.
I mean, it's not going to be much, but just enough to encourage bidding. But then the intention is before, once we have those numbers, before any planning to move forward anything, we want to arrange a discussion with the public about this idea and hear them out, so that all those concerns can be brought forward.
I also heard, sorry to extend it a little bit, but one of the residents mentioned that the neighboring property that's banned, has been torn down, the neighboring to 1001.
That's
here is maybe being considered to be purchased by the fire department? No? Okay.
I mean, the fire department has inquired.
Okay, but
That's
there's
not
no
a-
real traction on that. Okay.
You can ask, but you may not receive. Most likely will not.
Okay, thank you.
That is not.
I think the residents will be pleased to hear that.
Yeah. Anything else?
That's it.
All right. Vice Mayor Roberts?
Thank you. I just wanted to comment on the putting the flags out for the holidays that deserve the flags being put out. I know Kathy and her staff worked on it a lot, some of the members from the Parks and Rec department. So it always gets a very, very good response. And normally the times that I've been putting the flags out, it's sometimes it's later in the night, but anybody that sees anybody putting the flags out always has a very pleasant comment and thanking us for doing that. So I hope the city continues to do that for many, many, many years to come.
Thank you. All right, I know that there's many people, I think there's many people here that had concerns about the potential of a fire hall or housing firemen and EMS staff, things like that. What I'd like to do is not necessarily have a debate over whether it's going to happen or not. What I wanted to do is assure each and every one of you that what we wanted to do was provide a conduit for the fire chief to have some new staff while they're building the new fire hall that's going to be just south of the First Street and Indian Rocks Beach line. The proposal was not to put a fire truck on the street. It wasn't anything like that. The proposal was to just keep a fire truck out here in our parking lot ready to go in the event that there was an issue, maybe an ambulance or an EMS vehicle. But it wasn't supposed to turn into this giant, okay, this is what we're doing and we're going to make a lot of noise. It was more of a, they asked for help and we said, we'll listen, but what I did tell him, and everyone here can back me up on this, is I told the fire chief that we would not allow it to happen without having a town hall meeting and letting everyone that would be impacted by having a fire truck in our parking lot attend and we'd hear their voices and then we would make a decision based upon your input, not his input. So I want you to know that we're thinking about you and your neighborhood before we think about adding a fire truck to the parking lot, okay? Just wanted to bring that to light. Other than that, as soon as we have a date for that town hall meeting, we'll send out invitations and we'll make sure it's noted on the board out here and we'll let everybody come and speak their mind, all right? That's all I have for now. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Motion made by Frank Baker. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Jody Shirley. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? I keep hearing